To get started on our request page here, really quickly, let's switch over to our drawing here. So first things first, we want a little reload or the refresh icon here. We want our little map snippet here to be able to tap and go to our map page to set our address. And then it will be nice to show a pin of our currently selected address, I guess. And then we want a laundry request tab right here, and with a little store card in here. We'll go ahead and design the store card later. For now, let's go ahead and get the whole layout started here. So let's work our way from the top to the bottom. First things first, I want to go ahead and create a little rectangle here. Just go ahead and choose a size of maybe 250 pixel here in terms of the height. Make sure the width is fully taking the horizontal space here. We're going to insert our map in here, but before we do that, I actually tested the map box design instead, and I think it looks a little bit better than the Google Map, at least for iPhone applications. Maybe in an Android application it would look good, but here I want to go ahead and actually change my map in this page, and then in this page using a different type of map. So let's go ahead and really quickly go back to our map page here. Let's go back to the rectangle here that's creating our map, and then let's go ahead and run the map maker plugin again. And this time choose the tab where it says map box. Let's do a zoom level of 15, and then just go ahead and make map. I think that looks slightly cleaner. I just want to change the shadow here of my rectangle here. Yeah, so for the first shadow here, I just want to change the opacity to maybe, let's do 7% here, so it's not too strong. I think that looks good. Let's apply the same thing here with the map. So let's go ahead and select this rectangle here and run the map maker plugin here. Go to map box. Let's go ahead and make the map here. One thing here, you'll notice it's covering my status bar, so let's use command and opening bracket here to just move it down. I think that looks good. And now my status bar is kind of blended in with the map, so I'm going to create a little rectangle just to cover kind of the top portion here, and let's go ahead and move this underneath my status bar. I'm going to lock the status bar layer, and now let's go ahead and make this rectangle maybe slightly bigger here. I think something like this would work. And then let's go ahead and change the fill to white color here, maybe give it an opacity of 50%, and then let's add an effect of background blur. Let's bump this blur to maybe 25. We can do 30 here. That's good. So now my status bar isn't blending in as much with my map, which is what I want. Again, this is part of UX. You want to make sure that your users are able to see their status bar without it blending into your own app. So let's go ahead and now switch back to my resources folder, go into icons, go into request. Let's go ahead and drag these two icons in here. First, let's go ahead and constrain the proportions and resize them to 38. And let's go ahead and just select this whole thing and bring it here. And I'm going to place my map pin somewhere around here. I'm going to go ahead and change the selection color to blue. Add an effect of a drop shadow and maybe change the Y here to 8. Let's do 10. Blur, set the blur to 10 and maybe the opacity to 15. Let's just see how that looks. I think that's better. Let's go ahead and also give a selection color of blue to my button here. Now let's go ahead and just move it up here. And I want to go ahead and also give this a drop shadow, but this time make the opacity or the Y 0, make the blur maybe 10, and bring the opacity down to maybe 15%. I think that's good for now. That button can definitely be a little bit more visible. And now if I switch over to my designs here, we want the laundry request tab over here. So let's go ahead and create a rectangle from maybe over here all the way down to my tab bar. Just want to zoom in here, make sure it's not actually covering my tab bar. I think that's good. Let's change the fill to white. And hold Alt so we can separate our corner radius here and make this one 20, and then we can do 20 on this one too. Now remember, once you hold Alt once, essentially you're separating your corner radius for each corner. So you don't need to hold Alt once you see this little circle inside of our border radius control here. So right now, each corner will act independent of the other one. So you can go ahead and resize them without having to hold Alt. Let's add a drop shadow of, let's do -10. Or actually -6 here. Increase the blur to maybe 15 or even 20. And then bring the opacity down to maybe 8%. I think that looks good. I definitely don't like my button here. So what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to wrap this in an oval. So let's go ahead and use the O key. And right now I'm actually placing that inside of that frame. So I don't want to do that. So let's go ahead and do it here. Maybe do 48 by 48 and then resize this to, let's do 32 or actually even 30 by 30. Let's go ahead and change the fill for this one to white, and then just make sure you select the whole refresh frame here and then move that over to here. Use command close bracket to bring it up. That looks good. Just going to use Command G to group these together and then place it here. And let's go ahead and finally add a drop shadow of 0, X and Y, and just a blur of 10. We can even do blur of 15 and do opacity of 15 as well. That looks better. Let's go ahead and jump in here and just remove that drop shadow from the reload icon or the refresh icon here. We just want it applied to the circle here, and on second thought, maybe I want to actually increase the opacity to 20%. I think that looks a little bit better. Feel free to play around with these kinds of things just to see what looks better, what feels right to you. Now let's go ahead and add a text in here, and let's actually go ahead and choose laundry store. And change the font size here to maybe 24, maybe 22, and move it up here. Let's group these together and then go ahead and just center them along. And let's go ahead and create a rectangle. Why don't we do 295 by 295? Then just center that here. That's pretty good. I'm going to hold Shift and Alt and actually make it slightly smaller. Maybe do 275 by 275, and then add a corner radius of 20. Now let's go ahead on over to my assets here. Go to local components, open up components, and then go ahead and drag one of these buttons in here, the enabled state, and center that along. And then change the text to request service. Let's go to the layers panel and make sure that's part of this button is part of this group. Just go ahead and place this inside of here as well. So yeah, all of that is now in one layer or one group. Cool, so there we have it. I think that's pretty good. That's a good start. If I switch back, we have almost all the elements in here. We will get into designing the store card in the next lesson. So feel free to go to the next lesson now to start designing our store card here.